Time for another edition of the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast. With you, as always, Jeff Chadiha from the NFL Network, NFL.com. Sam McDowell from the Kansas City Star is up and Adam. I'm Soren Petro from Sports Radio 810 WHB. We're going to talk about the Chiefs' win over the Houston Texans. Patrick Mahomes draws a couple more personal fouls, and the rest of the NFL loses their mind. As the Chiefs' offense regressing, Travis Kelce shines. Playoff Travis is back. Where was Hollywood Brown, Sam? Got some explaining to do on that one. Should Kareem Hunt be the starter? O-line struggles galore. Full confidence in Harrison Butker. Is that back? Pass rush is fixed, it looks like. Although they do struggle to stop the run. Did Jalen Watson make a difference in this game? Buffalo, Baltimore. Did the better team win there? And are they coming to Kansas City? We're talking about it right here on You Know What It Is, everybody's favorite podcast, the Red, Gold, and Bold.
You are listening to the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast, the most in-depth analysis of the Kansas City Chiefs on planet Earth, breaking down the Chiefs like no one else can. Red, Gold, and Bold is hosted by Jeff Chadiha, Sam McDowell, and Soren Petro. Jeff Chadiha is a senior columnist and on-air personality for the NFL Network and NFL.com. Sam McDowell is the sports columnist for the Kansas City Star. Soren Petro is the afternoon drive host of the program on Sports Radio 810 WHB in Kansas City. The Red, Gold, and Bold podcast is proudly brought to you by David Starnes Allstate Insurance, covering all the important things in your world: home, business, life, and even the fun stuff as well. Motorcycle, boat, ATV, you name it. Get with Dave and he'll have you covered. You can give Dave and his crew a call, visit them online, or stop into any of their locations, including North Kansas City, Liberty, and Branson, Missouri. Elevate your coverage, elevate your confidence, and drive worry-free. Don't put those insurance needs off any longer. Get with Dave. He'll give you peace of mind today for the things in your life most important to you. Now, here are the hosts of the Best Chiefs podcast, Jeff Chadiha, Sam McDowell, and Soren Petro.
Thank you very much, Curtis. We do appreciate it. Off and running, guys. Let's just start with this. Jeff, just first initial reaction. Chiefs 24 days off. They get back at it against the Texans. They get a win, 23-14. It's a 9-point win. They cover the number for most, I think. Not all. Not the late money. What was your initial reaction to the festivities?
A win's a win. You know, I don't think style points really matter at this time of year. If you're still playing football, you did something right, and that is the way every team should look at this. And so, you know, look, there were things to like and not like about it. Maybe we'll get into it, but we all thought the Chiefs were the better team. They played like it for most of this game. I thought it was encouraging to see the pass rush come alive at the right time, especially late in the game when they needed to make some plays. I thought that obviously Travis Kelce coming to life was a big thing for this team to see. Patrick Mahomes still making the magical plays. Bigger challenge this week. I thought the Texans, you know, were surprisingly competitive, but at the end of the day, the Chiefs did what they had to do.
Sam, your initial takeaway?
Yeah, I mean, Jeff said it. It's survive in advance time. I mean, you look at the 4 teams that are still alive, I think you could pick apart aspects of their game, all of them. I mean, Philadelphia's quarterback hasn't played great. Washington's given up a lot of yards and a lot of, points. Buffalo, I thought, stumbled through a game. I mean, Josh Allen did not have a great day against Baltimore, but at the end of the day, these are the 4 teams left for a reason. I thought, even though they were all 4 teams are probably having the same conversation because they were all outgained by their opponents. But at the end of the day, all the Chiefs want to do is win. And they had 2 developments that all year long we've considered at least partially question marks, which is Travis Kelce, and Jeff mentioned it, but the pass rush. And if you've got those 2 components, I think this team looks a lot different, and they can win games even when they don't play at their best.
You mentioned the 4 teams winning while being outgained. They also all won the turnover differential, right?
None of them had any turnovers.
That's right. Like, they took care of the football. That's like the common theme of the teams that got through, and the Kansas City Chiefs have done it. Curtis Seabolt, who works with me on the radio show, said, 8 in a row by the Chiefs, I think, is the longest streak ever without a turnover, right?
Yeah.
That's it. This team has gotten really, really good. and taking care of the football. And it does look like they've just kind of zeroed in on, all right, I mean, it's back-to-back years that they've kind of looked at themselves and late in the year gone, okay. And then the 24 edition of the Chiefs had a better record. In 23, it was like survival mode. Like, we got to change. What do we got to do to be the best version of us? This year, they had a better record, but they still seem to say, all right, this is what we need to embrace. Patrick Mahomes was turning the football over early. They were having real problems there. Mahomes is now 18, 19-1 TD to INT ratio, 19 or 20-1 coming down the stretch now when you add in this game against the Texans. So, they've really taken care of the football, and that's become who their identity is. The other thing that we know, Jeff, about their identity is that they're going to get all the calls, and the refs love them. It was a great there's a good follow. I think it's NFL meme or something like that. It had Mahomes and a ref coming in for a little smooch. It was like the pregame deal. That's the perception outside of Kansas City, is that the refs love them some Patrick Mahomes, love them some Kansas City Chiefs. He draws 2 more personal foul penalties in this game. What was your reaction to Mahomes getting those calls?
Look, I thought they were shaky calls, but like I always say,
shaky as in bad, or shaky as in they could have gone either way?
Shaky, and I know why they called it. Like, to me, the rule in the NFL needs to be what it is in college. If you're calling those kinds of penalties, you should be able to go look at them and say, were they as bad as we think they are? And if they weren't, then you pick up the flag. Sorry
to interrupt, Jeff. You can on that first one, on that roughing the passer play, they do use replay assist on it.
Yeah, that you're actually right on that. So I thought that, look, I understand the complaining about the calls. I don't believe calls change those kind of games. If you look at them in totality, look at that game in totality, the Texans were a mess on special teams. They missed an extra point, missed a field goal, had a field goal blocked. That's 7 points in a game they lost by, 9? And it's a different game coming down the stretch if it's 23-16. If they make a field goal and an extra point, then they're down 7 in that last quarter, which changes the play calling and the whole complexion of the game. And so I don't live in this universe where I'm like following all the complaining and the memes and all the back and forth on Twitter. I hear about it. But at the end of the day, it's like, that wasn't why they lost. I know they said that after the game, but if you ask them today, they'd probably tell you that's not why we lost the game.
I hope so, because it's a real sign of weakness as far as I'm concerned. When you come out and you're pissing and moaning about the referees, it shows that you don't really believe you can get it done. Patrick Mahomes didn't do it after he lost in 2018 to Tom Brady. He came out, he was very gracious. And by the way, the Chiefs had a really bad roughing the passer call on Chris Jones, where replays clearly showed he just hit him on the shoulder. Right? He didn't even get to possess the football in overtime. They called a play offsides on D4, which negated an interception. I mean, which he was offsides, but like, you see a lot of times that's not called, and yet he handled it graciously. I do think the Texans kind of showed their ass, for lack of a better term, in that. I mean, I think it was a really bad look, and I really do think it speaks to weakness, that they felt like, well, this was our shot, and if we didn't get him here, we ain't getting them. And
but
so
you know what? Yeah, but I always say, like I said this morning on the radio, does that really matter? I mean, it's not changing the way the game turned. It's not going to change the way they play moving forward.
But don't you think it's a window into the soul of the mindset of the players?
I think if you catch anybody at their worst moment, it's an emotional game.
Like Patrick Mahomes in 2018, where he did none of that. That's my whole point.
Yeah, but I'm sure you could have found someone in the locker room who might have said that, who might have felt upset about it. I mean, I've heard plenty of players throughout the league and coaches complain about officiating after losses, and it all sounds like the way the Texans sounded. And I don't belittle them for that. I think it's part of playing an emotional game. They wanted to win. They didn't win. That's the easiest thing to go to. But I know D'Amico Ryans. I've known him since he's a player. He's a classy dude. I don't think that, again, they probably weren't thrilled about the way that looked after the fact, but I don't think it's some deep window into their soul and their classiness and all that stuff. I think it's just a tough day, and they said some stupid stuff.
How dare you disagree with me, Jeff? First of all, that's number one. I do. I think it absolutely is a reflection of what they're really thinking, and I think they're afraid that they've given it their best shot, and they know it's not good enough. Go ahead, Sam. You've tried a couple of times. Sorry.
No, it's good. I mean, I think there's one difference here, which is D'Amico Ryans and Will Anderson both hinted that they spent the week preparing for this. And it stuns me that if you're a coach who gets only so many hours in the week to prepare your players, that you would spend any of it talking about referees, particularly because, I mean, look, there's stats out there. The stats don't support this theory that the Chiefs get all the calls. And that's coming from someone who believes that the first call should have been called. The second call, I mean, Patrick Mahomes puts himself in the vulnerable position. I didn't think, even if he gets hit helmet to helmet, like I thought he was responsible for the danger of that play, and that flag should not have been thrown. So I also didn't care for him flopping when he goes out of bounds. I think that's a bad look as well. But for a coach to say and a player to say they spent the week preparing for this, like you're wasting hours. And that's what I do think is an insight to look, the Chiefs should wear this as a badge of honor, that teams feel like they've reached this status now. They've reached this status now to where teams feel like they get all the calls because it's all they focus is on the calls they get. Like we all know the psychology that's going on here, but that's always been a fan thing. And it stunned me that a coach and player had focused on that during the week at all.
But I think that I don't think they spent the week during practice focusing on officiating. I think they probably told themselves, you know what, we're going here and everybody's against us, which all the teams do this, and so they probably threw out there, you're not going to get calls. Don't look for them. Play through it. I don't think that there was some sense of like D'Amico Ryans spending time talking about get ready for the flags being thrown against you. I think it was a motivational tactic. And I understand why it's a big story. I'm not saying it shouldn't be a big story because it's the Chiefs, it's the playoffs, but I don't think it was, I don't think it's some window into their soul.
I want to pick up on what Sam said about the flopping, because I think there are a couple of things. One, Jordan rules are real. Does Patrick Mahomes get some calls? You bet he does. And somebody else said it up here in the comments, and so does everybody else. So does Aaron Rodgers, Peyton Manning, Tom Brady. Tom Brady got it with Chris Jones. You get near Tom Brady, you're going to get a call. Tom Brady earned it. Patrick Mahomes has earned it. Michael Jordan earned it. That's a reality. I do believe officials, I think there's a league directive in every league, take care of the stars. So I think everybody in Kansas City does need to acknowledge that, benefit of the doubt goes to Patrick Mahomes, but he's blank earned it. Okay. And as has every other superstar that's out there. That's number one. Number two, I think he is so in control of the game that he does a nice job of selling the call. Like, I think he throws his head back when Will Anderson Jr. comes in on the first one to sell the call. He knows the guy who's going to make the call is behind him, and he knows he doesn't have a full view, which I think is absolutely amazing, that he's got his reads going through his mind, where he's got to go with the football, what he's doing, and then as the guy's coming in, he's going to sell that hit, right? Like, because that one was really well done. And I was talking to my friends, like, you really think so? I said, yeah, I think he's selling it. I think he's throwing his head back. I don't think he really got hit that much, and I think he gets the call. That's just good. That's just a good job, right? Then don't guys, when they're kind of getting their shoulder pain, it's okay to hold a pad here, but if I start to run away, it's a problem. And then they yank it, and guys sell it by throwing their arms out. Flopping happens everywhere. It
Receivers
ain't just soccer.
do it all the time. Yeah.
That's just good. That he just did a good job of that. But I do think Sam's right. The flop going out of bounds, and then all this talk that the refs are on his side and giving him calls. Refs hear that, and they don't want to look like somebody's bitch either. Right. Yeah. And so you go and show them up and be like, hey, we're protecting you as it is. And now you're going to go and try to get me to throw you a call. I did think that was not a wise move on his part to keep getting the calls on down the road.
It's something that the refs should go ahead, Jeff.
I was going to say, and that might have been the thing that people picked up on the most after the fact. The calls already happened. And then when that happens, people are probably like, well, wait a minute now, what's going on here? Like, this is what we're talking about. And so that's all I want to say about it.
I think refs should take notice of it. I mean, like I've always thought this about, look, basketball, I think, is where we see this. In soccer, we see this frequently. And I'm always surprised that the guys who are notorious for floppers get calls still, because to me, that should be part of a referee's calculus is I've seen you do this over and over again throughout your career. So I not only did not think that, I don't think it's part of Mahomes' identity that we see constant flopping from him. But that particular one was a clear flop. I don't think it's a good look, and I do think referees should take notice of it. I will say, and we've seen it a couple times in the comment, these people are right. There is a montage of Josh Allen where he does this stuff pretty routinely. This is not This is not a
Yes.
Patrick Mahomes thing. A lot of quarterbacks, star quarterbacks, know that they're protected. It's absolutely a league directive to protect the quarterback, and they take advantage of it. And I just think referees should take note of who do I see taking advantage of this. And Jeff's right. Look, I mean, Walt Anderson said that first play can use replay assist. If it's helmet-to-helmet contact, if that's part of the ruling of roughing the passer, you can take a blip and ask for replay assist help. And that more personal fouls in the future, like that second flag, will also include replay assist. Now, he says that would have been called anyway because of the helmet-to-helmet contact. But replay assist, I think a lot of us thought we had some skepticism. It's quick. And I think if it's that quick, why not use it more often? Because these 15-yard flags are huge plays.
Yeah. Or, what you can also do, what they do in the NBA is penalize people who flop.
Yes.
NBA, you get technicals for it.
Yes.
If it becomes an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty, it's going to change conduct.
Yeah,
totally agree.
I think it's a great point. Listen, if you want to support the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast, which we are certainly pleased, you support us by watching. Also support our great sponsors like GAN Asphalt and Concrete and David Starnes, Allstate Insurance. David Starnes Allstate Insurance, serving the Kansas City area and all throughout the Midwest. With David Starnes Allstate, it's not just about fender benders. Beyond traditional safeguards, enjoy perks like roadside assistance for unexpected breakdowns, transportation expense coverage when your car is in the shop, auto replacement protection to keep you on the road in style, and much more. You can give Dave and his crew a call at 816-781-7331. Visit them online or stop into any of their locations, including North Kansas City, Liberty, and Branson, Missouri. David Starnes, Allstate Insurance. GAN Asphalt and Concrete, proudly serving the greater Kansas City area. Nationally recognized, full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor. Parking lot problems? They've been making them disappear in KC since 1994. Don't risk accidents and liability in your parking lot. Get your lot restriped today. A brightly striped lot will cut down on accidents and keep your lot as safe as possible. Find them online at GANasphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. GAN Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lot. Is the offense regressing? The only one wide receiver catches a football, Jeff, in this game. The running game had some issues. The offensive line certainly didn't grade out real well, according to Pro Football Focus. Is the offense, stalled or even backing up the bus right now?
That's a heavy statement to make. I would say they played a really good defense. And we talked about this last week in terms of the adjustments the Texans were going to make. You saw what they were doing in the first game. What I will say is the stuff they were doing towards the end of the season, having success doing it with the short passing game, the quick passing game, that stuff goes away eventually. And then you're either going to be able to throw the football deep and intermediately, or you're going to be able to run the football. Because people start sitting on short routes, they start taking things away from you. And so to me, the bigger concern I have about with this offense right now is the run game. And the run game has been an issue for the last 5 or 6 weeks, or pretty much since Joe Thuney went from left guard to left tackle. And so when Isaiah Pacheco came back, I tried to tell people, look, that kind of injury, that position, it's going to be a problem. And he's averaging like 3 yards a carry or less, whatever it is now. And so they're going to have to run the football more effectively to win this next game. There's no doubt about it, because you saw what happened to everybody else. I think the Texans said, you know what, we're taking everybody else away. Kelce can have his, almost like a Kobe Bryant type philosophy in the NBA, where it's like he's going to get his, but no one else is getting anything. And it was a good game plan defensively, because they were in position, if they actually made some kicks and didn't do stupid things penalty-wise, to have a one-score game at the end towards the end of the game. So, yeah, I think they've got to fix some things, but the run game is the first place to start.
All right. How about you, Sam? You think the offense suddenly hit a wall?
No, I mean, I definitely don't think the offense played well. I mean, I mentioned this on your show today, Soren, but the 212 yards, I mean, playoff teams historically that have 215 or fewer yards in a game are 18-95. Like, the way that they won this game is not a winning playoff formula typically. So the offense is definitely going to have to be better. But all we talked about on Friday was how good the Texans defense was. And if the Texans were going to win this game, it was going to be because their defense mucked stuff up. And I also think the elephant in the room is Patrick Mahomes did not play well. in a playoff game. And I realize that's atypical to say. And even his numbers were not that bad. I mean, you look at the old-fashioned passer rating, he nears 100. On the first series of the game, he's got Hollywood Brown on a wheel route that he botches. On the roughing the passer play, people ignore what actually should have happened on that play, which is Travis Kelce was wide open, and that should have been a long gain, plus the 15 yards afterwards. I thought he looked off, and I think that the reason he looked off was because it was a very windy day, up to 25 miles an hour. Few quarterbacks look good in that situation, but it didn't help him that C.J. Stroud did throw the ball pretty well in that situation, because most quarterbacks don't. And I know he wants to say that he's an all-weather quarterback, and historically there's some truth to that, but wind affects quarterback play more than anything. And I thought in the first half, at least, it looked like it was affecting Patrick Mahomes' passes.
For sure. I don't think the offense backed up. I think it was a rough day. I do think we've had a couple of people, I think Brett says, was rust a factor? I think yes. I mean, I think that's part of it. Not all of it, but I think that, plays a part in it. I think you're right, Sam. I think the wind, Trent Green said it to me many times, wind is the one thing that a quarterback doesn't want to see when it's out there. Maybe it wasn't the best day play calling wise for the team. I do think Joe Tooney, we'll get into the offensive line a little bit more. I mean, I think he has his limitations over there at left tackle. I mean, I think there were a lot of combinations, and they still won by 9, right? And they gave him 2 points at the end.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's just a rock fight. The defense is playing well, and it's okay. I think part of it is they have confidence in the defense now. They don't have to try to push the envelope, right? Because they feel like the defense is playing well. Offensively, Travis Kelce did play well. Jeff, I mean, 24 days off, and we see the spring in the step, or Travis Kelce just knows how to ratchet it up, or no, this was the game plan. They actually said, forget the old man. We don't need to stop him. The Texans, if he's going to beat us, let him beat us. We're going to take the wide receivers away. And so the Chiefs took what the defense gave them. And that was –
I think that's exactly what it was. Yeah, I think that's exactly what it was. I think you're probably going to see more teams do that. Now, I don't know if you're going to do that, you better have somebody keep your eyes on him. There were 2 or 3 times there where he was in the vicinity of somebody and they're looking around like, who am I going to cover? And he's like, right here. So that to me, and DeMeco Ryans did say we had, planned for that, and guys didn't execute what we planned. And that's, again, part of why they lost the game. But, yeah, I certainly felt like there was going to come a day where teams were going to say, we're not doubling him. We're going to single cover him, and we're going to take our chances taking away other people. And he made them pay a huge price for this. I thought he looked great, did a great job. And I also said this last week. When it comes to the playoffs, that's who Mahomes is looking for. You can talk about Hollywood Brown or Xavier Worthy or DeAndre Hopkins. He's going to look to him first. And, again, this coming week, I think you're going to see the Buffalo Bills play to that idea.
Yeah. I think Travis Kelce's got a lot of, I think he's got a lot of knowledge, right? That's one of the things. So if you're going to try to get cute with him, he's going to be effective. And Patrick Mahomes is comfortable throwing in the ball. Sam, you think we're going to see more of this, or was this just the way they were playing, the Chiefs overall?
Yeah, I wish Jeff hadn't patted himself on the back, because I was going to pat him on the back. Because he did say on Friday, he said that as much as we're all focused on Xavier Worthy's late season progression, or what Hollywood Brown has done in his 2 stints, that he still wants to throw to Travis Kelce in the playoffs. And you're right also about the missed coverage. I mean, Shazier misses the coverage on Kelce on the long run. But a lot of this is stuff we haven't seen from Travis Kelce all year. I mean, I mentioned this stat to you guys before, but he forced 3 missed tackles all year in 16 appearances, 3 missed tackles, 2 on 1 play against the Texans. Like, we have not seen that after the catch ability all year. I asked him about it in the locker room after the game, and he said it was good to finally make somebody miss again. Like, you can't imagine a prime Travis Kelce saying that. That's the difference in the prime Travis Kelce. But I looked this up after the game, and he had the best single playoff performance for any 32-year-old tight end or better, and he's 35. Like, this isn't something that typically happens with these tight ends. And just one really quick anecdote, because Nico Remigio told me in the locker room, and I just thought it was great and indicative of what this guy does in the playoffs. He said on Monday he's watching film, and they actually practice 1s versus 1s over the weekend. And as he's watching film at home of practice, he brings his wife over and says, you have to watch this. And he says, look at how hard Travis Kelce is going in practice right now. Like, you think that guy doesn't want to win now. And it said it set a tone for the whole week. and it was supposed to be a jog through practice, and suddenly everybody's sprinting because on the first play, Travis Kelce is sprinting, catches the ball, and he's sprinting 20 yards after he catches the ball to make sure he still scores, even though nobody's chasing after him. And that's the type of leadership that's unspoken that I think you get on this team that certainly matters this time of year.
I think you're right on making people miss. I mean, when he would cut back, I have a group of guys I usually watch the games with, and anytime he tried to cut back, the whole room goes, no!
Yeah.
Like, just wanting him to turn and go forward as far as you can until you're brought down. But he was making people miss. He had his little reverse pivot going down on the post on some guys and then running through some arm tackles. I mean, it's just no doubt the rest does a lot of good for him. And there's no doubt he rises to the occasion in the playoffs. I mean, I thought it was fantastic. He had a big day. Hollywood Brown did not have a big day. Sam, we talked about this. We're joking around here, making you the legal counsel for Hollywood Brown, but you've certainly been his biggest champion and proponent that he is one of the major keys for the Chiefs winning it all. It doesn't mean he has to be the biggest guy every week. What did you think of the fact that he got 2 targets, no catches, and yet they were still able to win?
Yeah, but it was a day of almost for Hollywood Brown. Like I said, I thought he was open on the first target, and Patrick Mahomes missed him. The second one is indicative of what the Chiefs' deep passing game has become for these past 3 years. Is a guy, it's either a beautiful pass and the receiver doesn't come down with it, even if it's a tough catch. Like that was a tough catch for Hollywood Brown, but you'd like to see a receiver come up with that, or the quarterback misses the pass. I mean, Jeff said it. I mean, they decided to take away the outside. These are 2 really good cornerbacks, but I don't think the Chiefs can beat the Buffalo Bills when you get 0 catches out of. We've got Hollywood Brown on the list for good reason because we've talked a lot about him late in the season. But it's DeAndre Hopkins that gets no catches. I don't think you have to get a catch out of Juju Smith-Schuster. But if you're getting 0 catches out of those top 2, you would think that you've got to get something out of them. Like your receiver is going to have to become a bigger factor against the Buffalo Bills because their secondary is something you can exploit, unlike the Texans.
Can I just say this is New England Patriot football, though? Isn't this what we would see? Like one game, ask any fantasy, nerd that's out there. Oh, this is the running back to get. Okay, they're going to pound the rock with, Corey Dillon, and then no, it's I forget who was the guy who caught 1 million passes out of the backfield for them. The next
James White.
Yeah, he catches 12 passes for 87 yards and a couple of touchdowns, and then it's Gronk one time, and then it's Edelman another time. Like, I do think the defense dictated a little bit to him. The one thing I will say, though, about the Hollywood Brown side of things is, like, we don't see a wide out running wide open anymore, right? Like, whether that and
wasn't that supposed to be his thing?
What's that?
It was supposed to be Hollywood's thing, wasn't it? Running wide open,
yeah.
Separation.
I mean, yeah, and that was the point I was going to make. Like, I get it. DeAndre Hopkins doesn't have the speed anymore, and he was never a speed guy, and he's lost a step. So if they're all around him, okay. Right. And I don't think the Chiefs would have gone for DeAndre Hopkins unless they absolutely needed him. Right. I don't think he's their type of wide receiver, but Hollywood Brown is their type of wide receiver. Yeah. Hollywood Brown is not as old as DeAndre Hopkins. Hollywood Brown is supposed to be fast. We all thought he looked fast in OTAs, in minicamp, and in training camp before he got hurt. And there's no separation there. So and he didn't hurt his legs. So I think the legs are fine.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, is the league and our defenses catching up to what it is the Chiefs do? Are the gotcha routes no longer there? I mean, they can get Travis Kelce open underneath and stuff, but they're not. There used to be times you're like, how is Tyreek Hill wide open? Well, part of it's he can run, but Justin Watson getting loose down, like it is part of it that schematically they're getting caught up to.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, and I said this back when Hollywood Brown had his 4 catch day, whatever it was, and I was joking about it. They're really good at scheming stuff open when they know what's coming coverage wise. I mean, a lot of times schemings work when you hit right on what the defense is going to do. Now, if the defense gets you and you're running man beaters and they've gone switch to zone, or running zone beaters and they switch to man, it's going to be harder for you. And when you add in the dynamic of the offensive line, there is still a serious clock ticking in Mahomes' head. Like, he knows, even though Joe Tooney's over there, I don't have all day to sit back here and make plays. And I thought the Texans did a really good job of rushing him. And you saw him in the pocket, trying to figure out, where can I go? I can't escape. I got to go here. I got to go there. And that was like, that tells you what's downfield is not available to you. And so, yeah, I disagree. I think the Bills secondary is actually pretty good. And I think most people who watch them will tell you Christian Benford and is the Pro Bowl caliber corner, closing in on Trent McDuffie's status. Teron Johnson's a pretty good slot corner. I'm going to go too deep into them right now. But I think that, I think you saw some of the limitations of the Chiefs receivers in this contest because you've got to scheme some of these guys open because they're not just going to go out there and dominate somebody man to man.
Okay. Let's take a quick break here. I want to come back. I want to get into as far as the running game goes. They weren't exactly popping the pads when it came to the running game. We're always brought to you by our friends at Northland Injury Law. If you've been hurt in an accident, don't forget Kansas City's best. Northland Injury Law, Kansas City's Google 5-star rated personal injury lawyers, serving KC for more than 40 years, voted Kansas City's #1 accident lawyers, helping people with serious injuries from car accidents, work accidents, falls, and other personal injuries. Northland Injury Law doesn't get paid unless they get money for their client. Don't wait, get compensated now. If you have a case, text HURT to 22222. That's HURT to 22222 or call 816-400-HURT. That's 816-400-4878. The choice of a lawyer is an important one and should not be based solely upon advertisements.
Besame Wellness for all your cannabis needs. With fast, easy, and discreet delivery, you can enjoy the same deals you enjoy in-store but delivered to your home or office. Even same day. Restrictions may apply. Any questions? Let Besame's top-rated customer service team assist you. And this Chief season, don't miss a minute of the game with no delivery fees on game days. And when the home team wins, so do you. Use promo code 3PEAT and receive some extra free goodies with your next Besame order. Don't forget, you can still use promo code podcast25 to save 25% on your entire order for online delivery or at any of their 5 area Besame locations.
How about the run game, Jeff? Where do you sit on whether or not they are going to be effective running the football and how much that may cost them if they can't get the running game going better?
Well, I mean, it's been a concern for a while. We've discussed it, probably not as much as we're going to discuss it right now. But I mentioned Pacheco earlier. Look, if I'm Andy Reid, I'm taking serious consideration to playing Kareem Hunt a lot more in this contest coming up here. I don't know if it's going to make a huge difference. Look, you lose Joe Thuney, the left tackle, and you're putting in Mike Caliendo, who has not had great games. It's going to affect. They had a great base, a great foundation for their offense with those 3 guys, with Thuney, Trey Smith, and Creed Humphrey operating together up front. And now that is certainly been hindered. And you throw in a running back that's coming back from injury in Pacheco. Still don't know why Samaje Perine can't be part of the equation, but hey, we've been doing this for 17 weeks, 18 weeks, right? It's probably not worth even discussing anymore. But Kareem Hunt's probably your best option because you can't go into an AFC Championship game playing against a defense. Buffalo's not a phenomenal defense, but they're a good defense, and they just shut down one of the 2 best running backs in the NFL this year. And so, I think you can sit back there and just throw the football against them and not have a run game to balance that out. I don't think that's going to play. So you're going to have to find some way to make it work.
How about you, Sam? How big a concern is the lack of a running game?
Yeah, well, Derrick Henry, John Harbaugh or Todd Monken shut him down because he averaged like 5.8 a carry, and they just wouldn't give him the ball. And Justice Hill had a good day too. But I do think, to Jeff's point,
I would actually offer up that Lamar Jackson shut him down by turning the football over. But
the lead shut him down, right?
Yeah,
21-10 in the first half.
Yeah. But they did rush for 180 yards and average 6 yards a carry in the game. I agree with Jeff that like Kareem Hunt was clearly the better running back over Isaiah Pacheco in the game. But to me, the conversation has focused too much on which runner and not enough on which left tackle, because the running game has been markedly different since they switched Joe Thuney out to left tackle. For example, in 7 of the first 13 weeks of this season, the Chiefs had a 45% success rate or better running the ball. Since they moved Joe Thuney to left tackle, and the 4 times he's played left tackle, they've accomplished that 0 out of 4. So from 7 out of 13 to 0 out of 4. That's not coincidence. They had a wall in the middle of their offensive line with Trey Smith and Creed Humphrey and Joe Thuney, 3 very good, 2 all-pro players, and 1 very good right guard that could open the middle. And these are running backs who are better up the middle. than they are out wide. And so I think the running game was bound to be an effect of this switch. One thing about Kareem Hunt is, even as good as I think that as much as I think he was better than Isaiah Pacheco, I think part of that is rest, because he had 24 days off. We saw what Isaiah Pacheco did at the start of the year, and then he gradually regressed over the back half of the year, which, by the way, he averaged less yards per carry than Isaiah Pacheco did since Isaiah Pacheco came back from an injury. But I also think it's part of freshness in the fourth quarter. They ran him twice in the first 3 quarters. And then all of a sudden, the fourth quarter, he goes off. He's playing against a tired defense. He's a guy that's rested for 24 days, and he's a guy who seeks contact. I think that's effective. And so I don't think, even if I think Kareem Hunt's better and they have to use him in short yardage, I don't think you can send him to this workhorse running back or bell cow running back sort of role, because I don't think you get the same effectiveness out of him. I think that was derived from the fact that he was fresh in the game and fresh after a 24-day layoff. I just don't think you can have the same expectations if you run him 15 to 20 times in this next game.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. I'm looking at the weather. I think I saw 29 at kick, 25 at the end of the game. I'm not seeing a lot of wind being forecasted right now. Max wind gust 14 miles per hour is what I saw right now for Sunday. Look, you throw to win, you run when you're winning. And I still think that's the reality. I don't disagree with anything that was said by both you guys. I don't think they have to run the ball effectively to win, but they do have to keep handing it off. And if you're going to, because I don't think they can just let Joe Thuney rock back at the left tackle spot and have the rush come at him. I definitely don't think they can have Mike Caliendo just rocking back in there. So they've got to run. And if you're going to go ahead and call the play, it'd be nice to get a little something out of it. I don't think Isaiah Pacheco's healthy. I think Kareem Hunt is the better back right now, and I think they need to run him. I think the good news is he goes back-to-back here, and then he gets 2 weeks off if they can win against the Bills before the Super Bowl, so he should be fairly fresh. And I think there's nothing wrong with Samaje Perine being out there. I mean, I think they keep running Isaiah Pacheco out there like he is the back that they want him to be and not the back that he really is. And Samaje Perine also gives you if they would run Samaje Perine, I guarantee you they'd be running into a light box, because he's basically a big flag that says we're throwing everything in there. So to me, there'd be an element of surprise. So I'd really like to see that. And I don't think it's going to get a whole lot better until the offensive line gets better, right? And I don't know that it can get better. I think the offensive line is what it is right now, right? I mean, does anybody think it's going to suddenly be, Jeff? Do you think there's some next level that the offensive line can go? I think they've settled in with Thuney. No. Somebody goes down, DJ Humphrey's going to be coming. I think Matt put up there, he said, hey, I'd go to DJ Humphreys because I think we need to run the ball better. You won 23-14, and 2 of those points you gave him at the end. I don't know. I mean, you might not want to mess with what ain't broke.
Yeah, I'm on record about putting Humphreys into a game at this stage. It's a huge gamble, and I feel like the reward for it is not nearly as good as the risk involved. Putting him into the AFC Championship game as a starter would be borderline suicidal. And look, and we all know that the longer Joe Thuney played, the more people were going to start getting a book on him and figure out how to attack him. The good thing for the Chiefs this week, you don't have the same kind of pass rushers in that Houston offers, right? I mean, I think Epinesa and Rousseau, their ends are bigger guys, which is why they're better against the run, because they're more run-oriented edge rushers. So you're not going to have that. But the Chiefs bothered Mahomes in the first game with when Wanye Morris was playing left tackle, and that was a big part of the interception that he threw in the first series of that game. And so this is the game that really is going to be, I think, controlled by the line of scrimmage or determined by the line of scrimmage. I think the quarterbacks cancel each other out. I think there's a lot on either side you can say is pretty equal in terms of taking care of the football and big play capability. But I think it comes down to both the offensive and defensive lines who has the better days as what decides this game.
The offensive line's not changing, right, Sam? You agree with that this is what it is? And so is there a way to be more effective, or you disagree? Do you think they could actually change up what they're doing offensive line-wise?
No, I mean, I agree. I mean, look, the Chiefs are prioritizing their passing game over their running game, and they should prioritize their passing game over their running game. And if you're prioritizing your passing game, you just want the known commodity. You want the guy that Patrick Mahomes at least knows, I think he's going to get beat here. I can tell that he's getting beat by this edge rush. I just think DJ Humphries is way too much of an unknown. I understand it. Like, I understand people saying why they should put him in, because I do think it improves their run game. But I just think there's too much mystery in that scenario.
Yeah, I would agree. How about Harrison Butker? Did he, calm all fears that he's back, and that now, 4th and 3, 4th and 4, Andy really has a decision because Harrison Butker's automatic? And because I really thought coming into this game, Andy Reid needed to be ready to press the go for it button a lot more, because I didn't think you could necessarily count on Harrison Butker on a windy day. We saw Fairbairn, meltdown. Jeff, you feel like it's old school Harrison Butker where he's going to make every kick he lines up in the playoffs?
Yeah, I mean, he's been pretty clutch throughout his career. I didn't have a lot of doubts about him.
All of them.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. I know he didn't look great down the stretch here, but kickers are going to miss kicks at some point. You're not going to go up, 100% on everything you try. So, but knowing the way the kicks he's made throughout his career mentally, it wasn't like a Justin Tucker situation where early in the year he just was missing big kicks and big situations, long kicks. I feel like Harrison Butker, I think he lives for these kind of moments, and he's delivered. So I never had the kind of concern you may have had about him.
Okay, Sam.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one area where the Chiefs have a pretty clear advantage. Let's not forget how the Bills-Chiefs game ended a year ago. The Chiefs won the game, but that game should have been going to overtime if Tyler Bass hadn't missed a kick. And regardless of, where Harrison Butker is health-wise, because I still think, look, his longest kick in the game was 36 yards. And I'm not, trying to take away from what he did, but we didn't see him banging in 50-yarders in the game. But regardless of where he is health-wise, I think mentally he has an edge, because these moments historically just have never bothered him. He's still been the same guy. And so the Bills guy, I think, let's say the Bills are lining up a game-tying kick. That could be an issue mentally because he missed that same kick a year ago. It would not be an issue for Harrison Butker.
Yeah, it's not that I think mentally there was an issue. I think physically there was an issue. And I think it is a new kicking approach, and we finally gotten Dave Tobe and press conferences to acknowledge that, and so but somebody said right down the middle, and that's the thing about Harrison Butker is not only would he make every kick, he'd make it right down the middle. There was no drama, and when he first came back, even the ones he was making were kind of like you're trying to lean it in. He was back to knocking it down the middle, and it was a piss poor day to kick a football. Right. And he was back to putting it right. I mean, he clearly has a home field advantage, kicks there more often, should know the wind better. But it was a tough day, even knowing the course. And he was still nails.
Well, they go out and practice there every Thursday. They go over to the stadium and practice. But to your point, Soren, they weren't those same conditions that he was playing in on Saturday. Like that wind and even the temperature was much different on Thursday than it was on Saturday.
Yeah. Go ahead,
What's the longest kick he's tried? I was going to ask. Sam made a good point.
He came back.
Yeah. Did he hit a 50-yarder? 55?
He's definitely tried one in the 50s. I mean, let me pull up his game log here to see the longest one that he's made. So he made he missed a 50-yarder in Denver. Obviously, I think that was like a 51-yarder maybe. Let's see. He came back in December. He missed a kick in the 20s. He was 2 for 2 the next week against Houston. He's kicked one kick in the 40 yards or longer since he came back, and it was against Houston.
And he's made one, or he's attempted one.
He's attempted 2. He's attempted a 50 plus, which I think it was 51 in Denver, and he missed it. And he's attempted one in the 40s against Houston, which I think was like deep in the 40s. I think that was kind of near 50, but he made that one against the Texans.
Okay. So, he looks like he's getting back to being who he was. Let's talk about the pass rush. We'll do it right after you hear from our friends at David Starnes Allstate Insurance. David Starnes Allstate Insurance. Elevate your coverage, elevate your confidence, and drive worry-free. Covering all the important things in your world. Home, business, life, and even the fun stuff, as well as your motorcycle, boat, ATV, and you name it. Get with Dave, and he'll get you covered. you can give Dave and his crew a call at 816-781-7331. Visit them online or stop into any of their locations, North Kansas City, Liberty, and Branson, Missouri. Don't put those insurance needs off any longer. Get with Dave today. He'll give you peace of mind for the things in your life most important to you. David Starnes, Allstate Insurance. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, proudly serving the greater Kansas City area. Nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor. Locally owned and making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Let Gann educate you about the most cost-effective way to solve your parking lot problems. Free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews. Every project comes with a written warning. Gann Asphalt keeps your parking lot safer and helps you and your business avoid unnecessary delays and costly expenses. Find Gann online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lot. All right, Jeff, George Karlaftis was a wrecking crew and the pass rush is back, right? Like that's the news. That's the story. Like they are going to be tough. The Bills have a great offensive line. Josh Allen doesn't really get sacked very much. I think Sam said today on the radio show, 14 sacks is all that Josh Allen has been sacked this year. But the Chiefs pass rush looks like it's back to where it was last season when it was second most sacks in the NFL. It was anemic early. It looks pretty good right now. That bodes well for them playing defense at a high level against anybody.
Yeah, I think Sam, I think Josh Allen in the last 7 games against the Chiefs has been sacked 6 times. So, part of that's the offensive line and part of it's just he's hard to bring down. He's very mobile and he's very big. Yeah, it's very encouraging to see what they did in that game, especially at the time they did it. Like 5 of those sacks came in the fourth quarter. And, look, sacks, the number looks good, but if you really break it down, there's a story for each one. I thought the play calling, by the Texans in those situations was really bad. I thought C.J. Stroud held on the ball way too long. I think they clearly felt as if they could make plays down the field. One play specifically I thought that was horrible was when the clock was running down on a 4th down play and they rushed out there and tried to run a play that they clearly weren't ready to run.
Because C.J. Stroud went to the sideline. Like he didn't anticipate them going for it. He went to the sideline.
Yeah, I don't understand what happened there. It was mind-boggling. You can't run a play in that situation. That means that much. It was like 8 minutes left in the game. So not taking anything away. The pass rush was great. They needed to have that kind of game. I think it will be hard to get Josh Allen down. And I think there is something to the fact that they played the Texans twice, who have a horrible offensive line. The Browns were 2nd in the league in sacks allowed. Steelers were 8th in the league in sacks allowed. Raiders are 9th in the league in sacks allowed. They're playing some offensive lines they should be eating up on. And I think they're eating up on them for that reason too.
Yeah. Listen, the pass rush to me is the story of this team right now. It has enabled the defensive backs to kind of find their roles again, right? We can talk about the coverage is better, looks better, don't have to cover for as long, right? Yeah. This is real different, though. C.J. Stroud, that is one of the things that if I'm a Texan fan, look, he's tough, and I do love that. He will deliver the football and take a hit. That is great, but he's got a lot of Joe Burrow in him. He will take a sack and a sack and a sack and a sack. And Josh Allen doesn't. Josh Allen gets rid of the ball. Josh Allen runs out of there better. Stroud was effective a couple of times running the ball, as we talked about last week. We thought he would be, but not like Josh Allen can be. And so, this is a little bit different, Sam, in the sense that you want to rush the passer, but also not just go flying hell-bent up the field and leave a big gap for Josh Allen to take off and run for 15 yards.
Yeah, he leads the NFL in pressure to sack ratio with the lowest ratio in the league. I think it's like 9% this year. So you mentioned George Karlaftis off the top. It wasn't just the 3 sacks. I mean, his pressure rate was 24% in that game. And when you look at George Karlaftis' season, there were 5 regular season games, which he had a pressure rate of 10% or better. Only 5 all year. The last 4 were 4 of those 5. And then he did it again in the playoffs. So George Karlaftis has found something late in the year. Jesse Newell for the Star wrote about it, and his get-off percentage is significantly faster than it has been all year. So he's figured something out, but this is a totally different assignment for all the reasons you guys outlined. Like Josh Allen is not a guy that you can afford to really just come around the edge at full speed because he takes that opportunity as a running lane. He scrambles frequently. I think 19% of his dropbacks this year are scrambles. Like he will beat you when you do that. It's why he converted 4th and 2 to seal the game against the Chiefs last time because they got out of the running lanes on that play.
Jeff, it's like the most important. It's like the biggest killer is him running. Like how, we'll dive into it more, but like the pass rush has to be disciplined, right? Not just, looking to throw up some stats. And it's a different approach than it was against the Texans.
Yeah. And look, it's funny because I feel like I've had a lot of arguments with people about how good the Bills are, and I know they don't have the star power of the Ravens. We'll get into that, later on the show. But they're very creative with their offense, and what makes their offense really dangerous is that they can go to so many different formations, and they will use extra linemen. They'll put extra linemen on the field, and they'll run and throw out of it. Then they'll go to 4-by-1 set, or they'll go to a 3 wide receiver, 1 tight end, James Cook. They'll put the third string backup already back in the field and run him on a 50-yard goal route. I mean, so it's like, that's the challenge for Steve Spagnuolo and this defense, is trying to figure out how do you match personnel with what they have, because if you step up against him, he's going to go for 60 yards probably. And if you're blitzing off the edge with Trent McDuffie, he's going to step on Trent McDuffie's head and keep running.
Yeah.
It's like you can't afford to. This is the kind of game where Chris Jones specifically has to be very disciplined in what he does, because if he's out there trying to figure out the best matchup and trying to just dominate and improvise, Josh Allen will have a field day.
They're a good running team. The Chiefs did struggle to stop the run, 149 yards allowed against the Texans. Sam, should that be the fear? Not just Josh Allen's run, which we're talking about, but James Cook. Like, how much is the way the Texans were able to run the ball a concern?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's indicative of what the Chiefs should anticipate in the playoffs. I mean, look, when you get in the playoffs, I think you see teams' game plans. They're different because this is win or go home time, and you can't save stuff for later. Like the Texans had decided that chewing up clock and condensing the time of this game and running the ball is the best strategy against this defense, even though the one area where this defense has improved more than any other from last year to this year is stopping the run. But the past 2 weeks, against the Steelers when they played their starters and against this last week, they haven't been nearly as effective with it. So absolutely, against this team, which has a much better offensive line than the Texans have, it's absolutely a concern going into the game. In fact, I would say it's the most underrated concern because the Bills run the ball at the 5th highest frequency in the entire NFL.
5th highest frequency, 9th best as far as what they get out of it. They're number 9 when it comes to running the football, Jeff. Is the run defense, as much as we're excited about the pass defense, if you can't handle the run, you're not going to get to the pass rush?
Yeah. I mean, that is, look, the lesson to be learned from the Bills playing the Broncos, who the Broncos, I think, have a better pass rush overall than the Chiefs, is like they'll run the football down your throat if you're trying to just chase after the quarterback. Like, you're going to have to step up and defend the run. And to Buffalo's credit, I don't want to toot their horn too much in this segment, but they're averaging 180 yards rushing a game. In that game against the Bills, against the Ravens, what was really impressive is Josh Allen had like 70 yards passing in the first half and was okay with it. Like, I forgot Amari Cooper was even playing in the game because they were so devoted to running the football. And when you do that, you're basically telling anybody you're playing, we're going to be physical. And you got to stop this first, because we will ride this all day long if we have to. And so, I think that they got pushed around, the Chiefs, in that third quarter when the Texans went on that 10-minute scoring drive, and Joe Mixon, Sam's Joe Mixon, finally had a big game against the Chiefs.
About time,
they were pushing the Chiefs like 2-3 yards back every play in that drive when they were running the football. And so, look, it's Chiefs played well and did some good things on defense, but they cannot allow the Bills to go 10 for 17 on third down. That's a killer in a game like this.
All right, Sam, I think we're on the same page. Is the better team coming to Kansas City with Buffalo? The Bills and Ravens was the big game. They put it in the primetime slot on Sunday because that's the game that they thought was going to have the most interest. I don't think the best team is coming. I think Baltimore – I in some ways, look, I think Baltimore can, I said this last week, can play down lower than Buffalo, but they definitely have a higher ceiling. And we saw them play lower in the first half and play higher in the second half, and it wasn't enough to get by the Buffalo Bills. But what do you think of between those two teams, what the Chiefs ended up getting?
Yeah, I mean, to talk out of both sides of my mouth for the second straight week on this topic, the Ravens are a better team, but I'd rather play the Ravens. And it's exactly for the way that game unfolded against the Bills is because they're more mistake prone. And in the playoffs, mistakes are magnified. And the Ravens for the last 4 years don't make any fewer mistakes in the postseason than they do in the regular season. And the Ravens, I thought, the way I think I phrased this on your show today, Soren, which is the Ravens were favored by 1.5 when that game closed. If they played each other after, including that result, they played each other again this next week, there's no reason to think the Bills would be favored in that game. Because when you look at it on a per play basis, the Ravens outplayed them in the game, but they make mistakes. And when you make mistakes like that in the postseason, you can't limit the amount of turnovers you have in a postseason game. It's what has killed the Ravens, including last year against the Chiefs. It's what kills them every postseason. And it's why, like I said, going into last week, if you're the Chiefs, you'd rather play the Ravens, even though I think they're the better team, because 1 or 2 plays, it's going to be all on them. Mistakes can swing a game.
By the way, I'm not sure. Soren makes fun of Alabama for losing, but touts the Ravens who lose more. Not really. They don't lose more than Alabama this year.
Is that a Crimson Tide fan?
Yeah,
that's a deep cut.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Wow, holy cow! That's a. Listen, I think the Ravens. I said it. I think the Ravens can play down, and they did. They cost themselves the game in the first half. I'm happy as a Chiefs fan that the Bills are coming to town, though. I think one, revenge for the Chiefs. I think it's hard to beat a team twice in the same year. I think the team that loses the first matchup has a little bit of an advantage when they go at it the second time, because I don't think they're beholden to what they did the first time. And I think oftentimes teams that win feel like they got to go back and do what they did before, because if they go into the press conference and have to answer, well, last time you did this, why didn't it work? I think it's just human nature to try to go back and do exactly what you did the last time. These teams know each other really well. It's basically like a divisional game. They play each other so much. But yeah, I'm not trying to run down. I'm not trying to prop up the Ravens. They do dumb things. And to Sam's point, I fear good Ravens more than I get excited about bad Ravens, right? Like I'm more afraid that good Ravens would show up. I think Buffalo.
When do you see the good Ravens, though?
What's that?
When do you see the good Ravens? You see them in games that don't matter. That's my thing.
True.
You see them in,
well,
you never see them in the playoffs.
Which quarterback would have feared? Like Josh Allen's not
against Buffalo in the regular season.
Yeah, Josh Allen's not going to fear coming into Arrowhead.
No.
Right.
Would you think Lamar? I think at least it's an equation in Lamar Jackson's head for whether or not he can win. Josh Allen knows he can win in Arrowhead.
I think that's fair. I just the Bills, to me, we know what they are, right? Like I think if you're Andy Reid, you're like this is what they're going to do. This is how they do it, and and I also think, listen, I think in a way the Bills are overrated, right? When you look tell me what the DVOA is on the Bills, Sam, because I'm telling you, they're number 9.
We're going to DVOA now.
No, I'm going to give you.
I should make you guys agree for whether or not this is relevant before you know the number. One of you guys is going to actually use this to your advantage, but you guys need to decide up front whether or not this is legitimate or not.
I'm not. No,
They're fourth in DVOA. They're second in offense and 11th in defense, which seems
that overrated.
Yeah, well, I think they're overrated in the sense that, like, there's kind of a feeling, coming down the stretch, it was they're definitively better than the Chiefs. Does anybody think they're definitively better than the Chiefs? They're an underdog in this game.
I think they're better. I don't think they beat the Chiefs.
Okay.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing I'll say. They've beaten the Chiefs. They've beaten the Lions. They've beaten the Ravens. If you made a list of the top 5 teams in the NFL at the end of the year, there'd be those 3 teams, the Bills and the Eagles. I mean, how many teams they got to beat before you say, that's a good team? I mean, I get what you're saying. To me, the Ravens were the more talented team. But the Bills were the better team, as in executing, as in understanding what they have to do, as in playing together, as in not making the mistakes. The Bills aren't sexy, but there's a lot of 2023 Chiefs in them and a lot of 2022 Chiefs in them. That when Josh Allen said after that game, everybody thinks we suck, we're too small, we got no talent, we can't stop the run.
Which is such crap.
Nobody thinks that.
Nobody thinks the Bills suck.
I'm saying, but there are people who thought they were going to get run over in that game. People thought there's no way they could stop Derrick Henry or that offense. And there are people, you just said they're overrated.
Well, and I'm going to explain.
Okay.
They're ninth running the ball. They're ninth throwing the ball, right? They're 10th overall in offense by yard. These are the old school stats, right? Just the counting stats. They're second in points. Okay, they're really good. They clearly maximize their yards on offense. They get the yards when they're important, and they punch it into the end zone on a regular basis. Defensively, they're 17 overall in yards allowed. Total defense, 17. They do a nice job of maximizing the points because they're tied for 11th when it comes to points. So they're better there. Against the run, they're 12. Against the pass, they're 24. So how have they been so dominant? How did they win 14 games when they've got the 10th best offense and the 17th best defense? I'll tell you how. There have been 29 times the ball has been on the ground in their games. 18 forced fumbles by them. 11 times they've put it on the ground. 29 times. Fumbles are largely a 48 to 52% recovery. It's basically a 50-50 ball. How many of the 29 balls that have been on the ground have the Buffalo Bills gotten?
Well, they're second in the league in recovery percentage. So I don't know what that would be.
You're talking about
what's
how many of the
20?
defense recovered? Or
I'm talking about
total recovery.
Whenever the ball is on the ground, 18 times they have forced it on defense. There are 18 times it's on the ball on defense. There are 11 times that they have put it on the ground. So there were 29 fumbles to be recovered.
No.
How many of them did they recover?
I've got a cheat sheet because I know they're second, so I'm going to guess 20.
Okay. Jeff?
18.
25.
Okay. That can't be right.
It's 25, and if I'm wrong, it's 24.
So you're saying that's the difference between them?
I'm saying that the football is oblong and funny things happen. The big scheme is 50-50, right? The Chiefs, they're recovering. I think it comes out to like 84%.
I've got them at 64%.
Well,
I've got the Chargers first at 65%, but
of all fumbles or just the ones they put up that they get?
Yeah, it's all fumbles.
Curtis, I'm going with what Curtis pulled today. And then the Chiefs are recovering 54%. The Chiefs have recovered 13 of 25 that have been on the ground. So my point is,
I've got the Chiefs at 47, 25th in the league.
Okay. All right. So there's a discrepancy there. We'll figure it out later, but we'll figure it out before we do the podcast on Friday.
It's still really high. Regardless, the Bills are really high in the stats.
My point is, listen, and I think, frankly, the Chiefs have gotten a bit of a kiss. We know they were trending towards having a negative turnover differential, which they had last year, until they went 6-0 against Cleveland. That turned it around. Now they've carried that forward and continue to take the ball away. My point is this. I think Buffalo is, when I say a little overrated, because I think what they do is they win the turnovers. They have 19 games. They have won the turnover differential 15 times and tied it 4. That's insane. And that's
they've also scored over 30 points. How many times this year? 11,
well, when you
12?
when you get short fields, that's how the Chiefs. That's my whole point. The Chiefs had 3 possessions where they started the ball in Houston territory, which is part of the reason why they didn't have many yards. That's my point. Is that look, they're good at it, right? So if they play some turd, they're going to win the turnover differential. But they're not playing a turd. They're playing a Chiefs team that hasn't turned it over in 8 weeks, right? So if you don't give Buffalo the ball, and Buffalo was +1 in the first time. The Chiefs turned it over twice. The Bills turned it over once in that first game. If the Chiefs would win the turnover differential, I think they will definitely win the game.
That's true of anybody.
No, it's not.
That's most teams.
No,
that's true
the Chiefs were -12 last year and won the Super Bowl.
But I'm saying most teams that win the turnover differential win. Here's what I'll say about Buffalo that I think, and I understand. I think if Buffalo had Baltimore's roster, you'd love them, right? Because it's a star thing. Because it's a star thing, right? But end of the day, even the defensive stats you threw out, those are skewed heavily because of 2 games, the Rams game and the Lions game. They gave a lot of points. A lot of people got hit by the Lions for a lot of yards and points. The Rams offense.
Not many by the Rams. Not many by the Rams late in the season.
Yeah, but again, you take those 2 games out of it, and then they're probably averaging around 78 points. They're probably a top 10 scoring defense and top 10 yards defense.
Well, they're already 11.
Not if you also took everyone else's 2 worst games out. I don't think they'd be there.
We're talking about just them.
I know, but that's not. But I think Sam's point is
that's apples to oranges at that point. Then,
yeah, I think Sam's point is, listen, Buffalo's really good,
and
it's not going to. And let me be clear, it's not going to be easy to win the turnover battle. It won't be easy because
they don't give it away. Yeah.
They don't.
No, they don't. The reason I don't think that
Their
Buffalo's
quarterback
overrated.
doesn't get pressured, which is the first one, which is
Yes.
if the Chiefs get to Josh Allen 2 or 3 times, or at least are pressuring him a lot, that's their recipe to succeed, because most turnovers start with the quarterback, either the quarterback fumbling or the quarterback pressured and throwing picks. And that is the key. One, Josh Allen's really good, and then they don't let him get knocked around. And so, I mean, it won't be easy. Again, when I say win the turnover battle, the Chiefs win, it's hard to win the turnover. No one's done it this year against the Bills.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think that the Bills are overrated, though, because they were underdogs at home against the Ravens. But so I guess I can't compute that that's overrated when the market is placing them as an underdog against the Ravens.
But when you're +3 at home,
they should have lost the game. Yes.
And you're having to survive a 2-point conversion to be tied with under 2 minutes to go. I don't think Baltimore played very well. I think Baltimore was on the precipice of sending Buffalo home.
That's why I think Baltimore would be favored if they played again next week. Like, I don't think that the outcome of this game, the score of this game, changes that aspect. Like, look, if this was a Bills podcast, we'd be talking about the fact that Amari Cooper did not catch a pass. Keon Coleman caught one pass for 5 yards. Yeah. Josh Allen did not have a good day. Like, we would be talking about all that. I mean, the Ravens ran the ball really 170 yards.
Yeah, but the Bills chose to play that way. They chose to play a very pragmatic game plan.
I get that offensively. I get that offensively, and I think there's some sense to that. I don't think they chose to give up, the 160 yards rushing or whatever it was. Like, I don't. And look, Lamar also has 114 passer rating. Like, they didn't stop the pass or the run in that game defensively. And I think both of these teams are flawed. The Bills and Chiefs, every team that's left is still flawed. They're both really good teams, and I don't think it's crazy to think whoever you're picking in this game. I don't think the other side should think you're nuts for picking the other team.
Yeah.
No. In fact, I would point to, we're talking about, this whole thing about the styles. Go back to the AFC Championship game last year. The Chiefs weren't like dominating that game. They got a ton of turnovers and they held on for dear life. And that's how you beat the Ravens. That's exactly what the Bills did in this game.
Great point.
They got turnovers and they held on for dear life till the end.
Great point. Yeah, very, very good point.
Yeah, I agree. We'll get our predictions on Friday. Remember, we're always live on Tuesday nights at 9:30 and Friday mornings at 10 a.m. You can be a part of the podcast. If you're catching us on the podcast, you can be a part of the conversation in the chat room. We've got a lot of great people, had a lot of great comments here tonight. You can be a part of it if you join us live. We're always brought to you by our friends at David Starnes Allstate Insurance. Give Dave and his great crew a call at 816-781-7331. Gain Asphalt and Concrete, solving your parking lot problems for 30 years. One contractor, all things parking lot. Find them online at GainAsphalt.com. Northland Injury Law, Kansas City's Google 5-star rated personal injury lawyers. Right now, if you have a case, text HURT to 22222. That's HURT to 22222. And our friends at Besame Wellness. Remember, use promo code podcast25 to save 25% on your entire order at Besame Wellness. For Jeff Chadiha from the NFL Network and NFL.com, Sam McDowell from the Kansas City Star, I'm Soren Petro saying thank you very much for joining us here on the Red, Gold, and Bold.